Someone did not catch their name, came in barefoot. I, for one, would have sent them home. I would have sent them packing right then and there. Wouldn't have. I don't need to know your name. I don't need to know anything about you. You're telling me everything that I need to know about you. So that would have just been a wrap for me. I would have had to take a break, catch my breath. Like, absolutely not. Do not pull up to me to meet me on this very formal night. I'm here in this stunning gown, hair, makeup, everything done, and you cannot be bothered to put on shoes and socks? Certainly not. No. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Officially off hiatus. Welcome back to another episode of Brianna's Bachelor Breakdown. I'm Brianna, your Bachelor Relationship Analyst. If you love breaking down the drama and getting into the nitty-gritty of all the relationships, then this channel is for you. So today we are covering the season premiere, the long-awaited premiere of our Bachelorettes, Gabriella and Miss Rachel. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We pull up, we get a quick rundown of who the girls are, what they have going on. We get a refresher that Rachel is a pilot and a flight instructor. Gabby is a nurse, and they both got screwed over by Clayton. And so they are ready, they are deserving of finding love, and we're excited for them. They did skip over the guys, like, welcome intro packages, like when they take maybe like 5 to 7 guys and film them in their hometowns, and they're like, hey, my name is so-and-so, this is what I do for work, this is what I do for fun. They just skipped right over that. And that was really disappointing. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if anyone else noticed this. That's one of my favorite parts of night one, because I love getting like the backstory of the guys, because we don't really get into too deep of conversations on night one. So I like to have a little substance sprinkled in there. And also, I like it because they do show you some of, like, the relevant guys, like, the ones that are going to be front runners. But then they also throw in just some randos for you, like, some guys that don't end up making it very far, just to kind of, like, throw you off so you don't really know, like, what direction the season is going to go in. But, I mean, I guess they didn't have enough time because we had 32 guys to get through. So it makes sense, but I did miss it. Okay, so then we have a moment, the gals, they're talking to Jesse, getting ready for the limos to pull up. And so let's just take a moment and evaluate these girls' looks for the night, because they were definitely serving. So with Gabby's look, I really liked her, like, slicked back, like, I don't want to call it, it's obviously not bangs, but just like the front portion of her hair, like, being very slick to the side, strong middle part, and then more volume in the back, which we find out later is fake hair extensions. But it looked really good. I really enjoyed that look on her. And then her dress, the crisscross with the blue and like the faux see-through like mesh nude fabric material. It was a whole look. It was very like daring, but also, you know, covered in all the right places. A little like promiscuous, but in a classy way. So I was really here for it. I really enjoyed it. On the other hand, Miss Rachel's dress, I really liked the cut of it. I'm a big fan of like high slits, and I liked the two like stitches going across the leg. I really enjoyed the design of the dress. However, the beige, it just all was too monochromatic for me. It was kind of like the same color as her hair and like her skin tone. Like, I just didn't really feel like it popped out too much. Like, it kind of made her look a little bit washed out. That's just me. I felt like she could have gone for a more vibrant, it doesn't even have to be a bright color, but just something to kind of accentuate her natural tones a little bit better. And then the actual like fabric of the dress, again, didn't really do much for me. It just looked like it was, you know, just had some bling going on, which like is fine. There was nothing wrong with it. It's definitely appropriate for an elegant gown, but I think the color of it just threw me off so much that I couldn't really, I was not invested in looking further into what the dress had going on. Okay, so then of course we go through all of the introductions. So I'm just going to highlight a few that stuck out to me. So the first one that stuck out to me was Jason. He pulls up and he's like, yeah, like, I'm just like Clayton. I'm in love with 3 women. My mom, my sister, and my dog. Like, snooze. That joke did not land for me. As soon as he opened his mouth and he said I'm in love with 3 women, I already knew where that was gonna go. I already knew it. And any guy that's comfortable with saying that he's in love with his mom and his sister, I don't want any parts of. Like, even as a joke, I don't want that to be available in your brain to come out of your mouth. So it really didn't do it for me. The next guy that stuck out to me was Jordan. He was the one that came with the headphones and like put them on each girl individually, so that he could have a private conversation with each person. And I felt like, at least in my memory, he was the first person to try to make that really individual connection between Gabby and Rachel. And so I thought that was a really creative way to do it. I thought it was really smart. And they seemed very appreciative of it. And it seemed like he also like had something prepared to say. It wasn't just like, oh, I want to say, hey, how are you doing 2 times in a row? Like, he actually had some statements prepared for the girls. So I really appreciated that. He kind of lost me a little bit. I think it was Rachel that he was talking to a little bit later, and they were kind of catching up, and they were like, oh, like, it was so great to meet you at the limo's entrance, da-da-da-da. And he was like, yeah, like, did you really like my headphones? And she was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, I know. Like, I really just wanted to say something to you guys. Like, he just kept, like, breaking it down further of what he did as though they weren't all there. And, like, really complimenting himself. He was like, yeah, like, I thought that was such a good idea. And she was like, yeah, it was a great idea. And I was like, okay, all right. We all had the same experience. We all were there. We all enjoyed it. Next topic of conversation. So he kind of lost me a little bit at that point in time. But in the moment, I really appreciated that gesture. So then the next guy that stuck out to me was Logan with his little chicks that he was holding. I thought that was, like, super cute. It was a corny joke, and I think if he had just come up and, like, said the joke just, like, out of his mouth with no props, it definitely would not have landed for me. But the fact that he had the chicks, and they were just so cute, and I mean, these probably, obviously, are not really his pets, but I love that he had assigned little personalities for them, and he was like, this one had an attitude today, and this one is super sweet, and he had, like, unique names for them. I don't know, I loved it. I have small pets, so I really enjoy it when people, like, I don't know, it was cute. So the next guy that stuck out to me was Quincy Prince. I hope... I'm not trying to hear him be called Prince the whole season. But Quincy, he pulls up and he leads with the fact that he's been abstinent for a year and a half. And I don't know, like, he just screamed F-boy to me. Like, the fact that he pulled up, he's like, yeah, I'm so intentional. Like, I haven't had sex for a year and a half. Like, that's the only thing that you can do to show that you're intentional about dating. Like, I don't know, that really didn't do it for me. His delivery was just it was not working. So then the next guy that stuck out to me was Alec, the guy who had the children's choir. At first I was like, ugh, okay, here we go. Like, I was kind of feeling what Gabby and Rachel were saying about, like, okay, we get it. Like, Clayton screwed us over. Like, okay, what else do you know about us? So I was like, ugh, another song about Clayton. But it just kept going. And so eventually I had to tune into the song. And it was kind of cute. It was kind of catchy. It went on a little bit too long. Like, I felt like there were several stopping points that could have happened in the song that just simply did not happen. But by the end, I was kind of like dancing along in my seat on the couch, like, okay, all right, here we go. And then the guy that pulled out from the limo, like, who was accompanying the choir, Alec, he was so cute. I think he was, like, potentially maybe the cutest guy there. A little on the short side, but he was really attractive. And we did not see him for the rest of the night. So that was very upsetting because I had my eyes on him. Someone did not catch their name, came in barefoot. I, for one, would have sent them home. I would have sent them packing right then and there. I don't need to know your name. I don't need to know anything about you. You're telling me everything that I need to know about you. So that would have just been a wrap for me. I would have had to take a break, catch my breath. Like, absolutely not. Do not pull up to me to meet me on this very formal night. I'm here in this stunning gown, hair, makeup, everything done, and you cannot be bothered to put on shoes and socks? Certainly not. No. And then the last guy that really stuck out to me was Spencer, the guy that brought the chairs, because he was like, oh, I figured your feet might be hurting from wearing the heels. I thought that was so thoughtful. 10 out of 10, because I would have been like, yes, I hate wearing heels so much. And to just stand in one place for a very, I know those entrances took forever. So, shoot, I would have loved that. So, then we go into the mansion. We have the normal, like, first night speech. Like, thank you guys for being here. This is what I want to see from you this season. Da-da-da-da. And then we get into the individual chit-chats. At first, Gabby and Rachel are kind of chatting as a pair. They quickly realize that, like, doesn't allow them to form very good connections. But the first few conversations, either way, didn't really hit. The funniest one to me was the one with the twins. I just love watching Gabby's face when she is not feeling something, because she just has, like, the cringiest smile plastered on her face. She's just like, okay. Like, she's just, it's so hard for her to have a poker face, and she really cannot hide when she's not enjoying something. Rachel, on the other hand, I felt like hit it very well, because she was asking them a lot of questions. Like, she was the main one keeping the conversation going. And so I was really taken aback, honestly, when in her confessional, she was like, yeah, I just wasn't feeling the twins. I was like, shoot, could have fooled me. But hey, someone's got to go home, right? So then the first interesting conversation that stuck out to me was Gabby and Ryan. He was the one that was teaching her, like, the Boston, like, lingo, slang, or whatever. And that was just a really fun conversation. We all know that Gabby has a sense of humor. She's here for a guy with a sense of humor. So it was super exciting to see them be able to make that connection right off the bat, that she felt comfortable making fun of him, and he was able to give it right back to her. He was able to keep up with her tit for tat, and I think Gabby was a little taken aback by that, but in a good way. I think she was like, oh, okay, I might have met my match, because I feel like a lot of the guys will just, like, laugh along with her and be like, oh, haha, you got me, like, that was funny, but they're not really able to, like, dish it back to her. So I was really glad that Ryan was able to match her energy, and they just kept feeding off of each other for the rest of the conversation. So that was a lot of fun, and I have a feeling we're going to be seeing Ryan some more, hopefully. Then we get to Rachel and Hayden. Hayden was the Florida boy who brought her a birthday card, and let me just say, y'all, he was my favorite of the night for two reasons. He had the strongest country accent, and I am a sucker for country accents. Oh my gosh, I just love them so much. So I could listen to him all day. That was a lot of fun for me. And then the birthday card, I thought that was super thoughtful. Like, who else would take the time to, like, look up? I mean, I guess he probably was following her on Instagram or something and saw that she probably posted for her birthday. But who would think to be like, let me do something with this information and use it to make, you know, a first impression on her when I get to meet her. Like, I thought that was so thoughtful. It shows that he was really intentional. Here's that buzzword again. It shows that he actually, though, was really intentional in preparing to meet her. He really had his eyes on her from the beginning. It wasn't one of those things where he just pulls up and sees who looks the best that night. Like, he came there for her, and he made it known. So I really appreciated that. I really wish, I mean, we'll get to this later, but spoiler alert, he does not get the first impression rose. If it were me, if I were Rachel, I would have given him the first impression rose. But I hope that at least they're able to deepen their connection later, because I think that he already is showing really good qualities that would be a good match for Rachel. So then we catch up with Gabby and Mario. And Mario, he's the first guy who I really noticed that was asking, like, good questions. It wasn't anything, like, super deep or that we haven't heard of before, but he was just kind of like, hey, like, you mentioned this in your speech, you want us to be open and vulnerable, like, what does that look like for you? And how has that changed since your experience dealing with Clayton? And I just thought those were two very well, like, obviously prepared questions and a really good way to just, like, open the door to have a conversation about, like, expectations and what they want to see out of the process from each other. So I really applauded him for that. I also like it when guys or just, like, people in general will reference something that you said earlier in a conversation because it shows that they were listening, right? I mean, like, a lot of times people don't listen to hear, they listen to respond, or they listen to make a connection and be like, oh, like, let me tell you about this thing that similarly happened to me, or let me, go off of what you said and take it in a different direction. But I always really appreciate when people listen to respond and say, okay, you said this, let's take it a step further. Tell me more about that. So that really stuck out to me. And then they did share the first kiss of the night, the first kiss for Gabby and the first kiss of the whole night. A little unpleasant. Not gonna lie, a little unpleasant. A lot of people on Twitter were resonating with that as well. It kind of, to me personally, looked like they just smushed their lips together. Like, it looked like it was just like, I don't know. Like, it didn't look like any action was going on. Like, they just kind of, like, pursed their lips and came together. And it was just, I was looking at that and I was like, I really was questioning myself. I was like, is this how human beings kiss? Like, I really had to do a double take. I was like, is this normal? It's not. But it really had me, like, it gave me pause for a moment. It also reminded me of our dear Bachelor, Matt James. Not because either one of them had their eyes open from what I saw, but just, like, the level of awkwardness was really reminiscent of Matt. And that's not a good sign. So if Mario and Gabby continue their little connection, I hope they can figure something out and get that together. So then we have Tino. He pulls Rachel aside, takes her to the stairs, and he's like, hey, like, I want to make the stairs a better memory for you. Like, I know you probably have a bad experience with them from that infamous scene on Clayton's season where she's, like, sobbing her eyes out on the stairs. And I thought that was super clever, super funny. I also thought it was hilarious because he was like, yeah, okay, like, I want to make this a better memory for you. And, like, in her confessional, she's like, yeah, so, like, Tino takes me to the stairs, and he tells me he has this whole plan. Like, I just can't wait to see what's next. And then he pulls up, and he's like, this is it. We are going to sit on the stairs. Like, this is the whole plan. And I just thought that was funny, like, how he kind of laid those expectations, and he was like, we are done. But they had a good conversation. And then Rachel got her first kiss of the night. And this was a much better kiss. Like, I walked away from that kiss and I was like, okay, all right. Like, we're back to normal. This is how human beings kiss. Like, that was, they got a little steamy. One thing that I thought was really interesting was that he actually asked her if he could kiss her. And while that is a very respectful move, I also feel like it's a very bold move because, at least in my experience, a lot of, like, the women friends that I have or, like, that I've talked to will always say that that's kind of, like, a very hit or miss for them. Like, some people really like that. Some people really like to be asked for permission. Like, can I kiss you? Can I hug you? Whatever. Like, some people really appreciate that. But then other people are just like, no, like, I want the guy to take charge. Like, I want the guy to just go in for the kiss and make it happen. And you kind of never know what you're going to get. You never know, like, what type of girl you're dealing with. So I thought that was very bold of him to do something that a lot of women seem to be pretty split on. But it seemed to work for Rachel. So that was pleasant to see. So then Erich and Logan, they seemed, I think, they were the first guys to talk to both girls. And I appreciated Logan because he came with some good icebreaker questions. Like, he came with, like, are you this person? Are you that person? Like, do you do this? Do you do that? And I thought it was just fun. Like, it wasn't too deep, but it was a good way to, like, get the conversation going and talk about something both people can contribute to. So I appreciated it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Don't really remember Erich's conversation with Rachel, but one thing that I did explicitly write down in my notes with Erich's conversation with Gabby was that their physical connection actually seemed to be the best for Gabby that night. I don't think that they kissed, but they were just like on the couch and they were just like laying all over each other. Like they just seemed very comfortable immediately with each other. And I think that's a very good sign. So I feel like there could be something more in store for Erich and Gabby. And of course they were able to joke as well, and like Gabby was able to make fun of him. But I feel like Erich was kind of more the type of guy that I was referencing at the beginning, in contrast to a guy like Ryan, where Erich is the type of guy that's just kind of like, haha, like you got me. Like he doesn't really dish it back at Gabby. He's just like, oh yeah, like guys are dumb, true, which is fine. I mean, not everyone is funny, like to be honest. But I just thought that was an interesting like contrast of guys that Gabby was talking to that night. So then the first impression roses go to Mario and Tino respectively. And it made sense. I mean, they were both of the girls' first kisses that night. So, I mean, I'm here for it. I appreciate it. I'm interested to see where those connections go. Historically, on this show, I will say that women do have better odds of like making stronger connections with the guys that they gave their first impression roses to and keeping up with them for the rest of the season. Like, for example, we have Rachel and Brian. Brian was her first impression rose, and now they're married, and one of the few successful Bachelor Nation couples, Michelle and Nate. I mean, of course, sadly, now they have broken up, but in terms of the Bachelor, Bachelorette show success, he did make it to the end, and they did get engaged at the end of the show, so she did make a good impression with her first impression rose. The only Bachelorette who I can think of in recent history that didn't happen for was Tayshia, because she gave it to a guy, I think his name was Spencer, and then we really didn't see him for the rest of the season. So, but usually guys are more like that. Like, usually guys will give it to the girl that they made out with first, or like the girl who they thought was the hottest of that night, and then pretty much never talk to her again, or maybe like take her on a date and is like, meh. Okay, that's fine. So I'm really interested to see what these first impression roses mean to these girls going forward. And so then it's time for the rose ceremony, and Gabby and Rachel, they switch it up on us a little bit. So they take Roby, the magician, and the twins outside and dismiss them. And we've never seen that before, but hey, I mean, we've never seen two bachelorettes before. I thought it was pretty funny. But in a way it was also respectful, because it takes away that like worry, like the guys don't have to stand up there for like, I'm sure it takes like an hour, honestly, to do the rose ceremony. The guys don't have to stand up there and like worry like, oh, is she gonna pick me? Am I gonna get a rose? Like, you just know off the bat, like, okay, time for me to peace out. So I wasn't mad at that. I would not necessarily want to see that for the whole season. But I felt like it was appropriate for the first night where like no one really knows each other, and like it's really no hard feelings whoever goes home. And then the girls end up canceling the rest of the rose ceremony, and obviously all the guys who are left standing are able to move through to the next week, which I also thought was very appropriate. They kept on hammering home how they didn't get to talk to everyone that night, which makes complete sense. So I really appreciated that they're trying to be thoughtful, and they're trying to make sure that they at least know what's going on with everyone before making any like final decisions about who to keep or go. And yeah, so that brings us to the end of the night. We did get a few previews. And it looks like a lot of the drama this season is gonna be around like the guys who can't make up their mind and don't know if they're interested in Rachel or Gabby or what have you, as opposed to infighting or like in drama between the guys, which I personally would want more. I would rather see guys stress each other out, to be honest, than stress our lovely bachelorettes out. And you know, I hope it doesn't cause any friction between the two of them because they have such a beautiful friendship. And I don't want it looks like it's gonna maybe take a hit to their self-esteem a little bit, especially Rachel. And I've always in the back of my head felt like this whole season, or like leading into this season, of course, Gabby was like a fan favorite on Clayton's season. Everyone thought she was so funny and so cool, which she is. But she has more of a TV personality. And Rachel is just as cool, but her personality doesn't necessarily shine through as much on TV. So I feel like Rachel is kind of like sort of the second thought a little bit. And I can tell that that's probably going to be highlighted some during the season, which is just really unfortunate. But the guys typically do end up like getting along better in the house with each other than the girls do when they're on The Bachelor. So I can't say that I'm very surprised, but I'm here for whatever type of drama they're going to serve me. So I'm ready for it all. Thank you so much for watching. So excited to be back. And I'll catch you here this time next week for another episode of Brianna's Bachelor Breakdown.